citizen since 1989. I never voted before because I wasn't registered. I didn't register myself. My parents never talked to me about politics, voting, or nothing. I registered like 2 years and a half. So I went somewhere to fill out some papers, and they told me if I was registered to vote, and I said no. So the lady goes, "Do you want to register?" I go, "Yeah." So she registered me. Life is tough for me right now because I have to, I have 5 children. I gotta raise them, take them to school, and give them clothes, food, make sure they have everything.
We don't care if a candidate can and say, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" So what? It's just few Latina Spanish words. Anybody can say it. You have to come and say, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" with a heart. What I would like to see is more commitment and to not just promise and say, "Oh yes, you're right, we are going to work on that." No. We want to make sure there's going to be a follow-up.
I think there's still a misinterpretation of the Latino and the Latino vote in this country. And I'm proud to say that Voto Latino has really broken a lot of this stereotype that the Latino community is monolithic. We aren't. And if you see how Latinos go to the polls and they register far more than any other group, is we really care about the issues. And unfortunately, a lot of politicos come into the Latino community taking us for granted. They still try to speak to us only in Spanish, and they don't really address the issues. What they feel like if they address the issue of immigration, then check, they could move on.
Cubans also are not a monolithic group. It's very generational, and I'll look at my own family as an example. My grandparents always voted Republican. My father, when he became an American citizen, voted Democrat, although he considers himself an independent and is open to voting for a Republican. I and my friends have always voted Democrat. We have gone completely the other way. So the attitudes towards Castro is very generational. I mean, honestly, I didn't live in Cuba. I am sick and tired of hearing about Fidel. And that's how a lot of young Cubans in Miami feel. On the other hand, if you talk to my grandmother, she will hear nothing of taking the embargo off Cuba. I mean, that's, you're a communist if you would want to do that. So it's very generational.
Many of the Latinos that come here come with different backgrounds. And seems to me like this government or this country put us all out in one bucket. We all just know to talk about beans and Taco Bell or cleaning. And it is not true. It is not true. We have a very high intellectual level.
To give you just a simple stat, you have 18 million Latinos that are eligible voters in this country. Of those 18 million Latino eligible voters, you have 50% of them that are under 40 years old, and 79% of them consume their political knowledge and information in English, and 21% consume in Spanish. So it's fantastic, continue galvanizing that 21% that is predominantly Spanish speaking, but you have to figure out that nut on how to attract that 79%, because otherwise you're not going to involve them in that part of that conversation, and you're losing amazing opportunity.
One thing about the Asian American community is it is so very diverse. So you have people who are 5th generation Chinese Americans, and then you have people who just immigrated, and you have people who don't speak English, and you have people who've been speaking English for generations. You have people who've gone through the internment camp experience. You have the Asian Pacific Islander experience is just so diverse, and it's hard to say that one size fits all. I think in the Japanese American community, for instance, the voting turnout has been traditionally pretty high. And I think part of that is because we had to fight so hard for citizenship, and because of the internment experience, that people recognize the importance of voting. There's even a sense in the community, in the Japanese American community, that people died to get us this right to vote. Whereas in a more recent immigrant community, people may not have that background of understanding or valuing the vote in the same way. They might not have the same exposure to, yes, you should register, yes, you should vote, yes, it's important. They may not have the access to the tools in their language or from people that they trust, communicating this message of it's important to be engaged in voting and democracy.
In this country, we're lucky if we see more than 50% of eligible voters voting. And for the Chinese Americans, it's even less than that. Newcomers are the least likely to vote unless they happen to be political activists before they came here. Their first priority is to earn a living so that they can provide food and shelter for their families. So they don't even have time to think about too much else. I mean, they need to find a job, they need to learn English, get their kids enrolled in school. By the time you're talking to your fifth generation Chinese American, they're more likely to be more like their neighbors. So if they happen to be in a neighborhood that's very engaged in civic activities, they probably will be too. And on the other hand, if they're in a neighborhood where nobody cares about it, they're probably not going to care.